Hello, Sharon Stone. How are you?
Well, I am so good, Ashley Banfield. How are you?
It's great. I'm good. I guess all things considered, right? Here we are stuck in our homes and doing the best we can with ring lights and backdrops. And it hasn't been a super easy 3 months, but we're all kind of making it, right?
We in my family are making it with incredible gratitude. We are feel so graced to have a roof over our heads and enough food to eat and safety during this kind of precarious time for the world. And we really hope to do our best to help others during this time. It's a crazy time, and my children are 14, 15, and 20, so their entire lives have been nothing but turmoil, although they have some pretty strong opinions about what's happened in their lives.
And this is, I mean, there's not one person who's watching us right now who doesn't know how much of a humanitarian you are, and your causes run the gamut too. And it's just so delightful to know how focused you've been on the Red Cross too. Just, the little shout out that Jill just said about the gold medal of merit that the Italians gave you in 2018. Tell me how that came about.
Well, I started working with the Red Cross when I presented my very first initiative to the United Nations, which was terribly exciting. I presented an idea because my work with AMFAR, with AIDS and HIV over all the years, we started recognizing that we had been able to present enough money so that the scientists developed a drug called nevirapine that stopped mother-to-child transmission of HIV. But I went to third world countries and saw that that really wasn't enough because, of course, the mothers then could not breastfeed their children. And so then I went and tried to put in clean water wells in these different areas to start to understand the issue of clean water in the third world. When I was there, I started to understand how far pregnant mothers were walking, sometimes 5, 10 miles in labor to get anyone who could help them give birth. That it was just there was no real understanding of medicine in any nearby areas for so many women in third world environments. And because of the HIV/AIDS crisis, when births were in breach or there was difficulty with the labor, even doctors would not reach in to help the women because the gloves were too short and they needed longer gloves to be able to help the women. And so the women and the babies were dying. And when I started to really look at the logic puzzle of this situation, I reached out to the UN about putting on the ground training in so that pedestrians could learn to deliver babies and provide vaccines and give the basic shots and some of the basic healthcare treatments, and how many lives could be saved simply by this basic educational tour of CPR, life-saving skills like we can all get from the fire department in our local areas. Even your children can, and staff, if you have housekeeping staff, can all learn these things. And it's so important to get renewed each year. And so I presented this initiative, and it was presented at the Karolowski Institute and so forth, which is the university that's the study university where the Nobel Institute is. And eventually the Red Cross came on board and started to pick up this initiative and do this. They started to actually provide this care and teach people on the ground how to do these things. So this was 14 maybe years ago, I would say. And so since then, I've taken a variety of different initiatives forward and continued this kind of work. And I respect and admire what the Red Cross does so much. They're out there in the worst situations. And I'm sure, Ashley, you as a news reporter have seen this far more than I have, but I've certainly, when I lived in apartheid war-torn Africa, I mean, Red Cross is everywhere. They are just everywhere.
It is. It was my inspiration for being on the board because of 30 years plus of seeing their work, and not just here in North America, but also in war zones. That was exactly why this was the passion for me. And thank God the Italians saw in you what I know about you. And then I was just delighted to see your social media just a couple months ago, you reaching out to the Italians in their gravest need because of how distressed they were with the effect of COVID in that country. That was so heartfelt. I mean, that really had to sort of be hard for you to even do, realizing they had just honored you and there they were suffering again.
They have not had suffering like this since World War II. And no one has. And globally, when I saw it happening there, I was sure that we would be having it here. And we don't really see our brothers and sisters as our brothers and sisters. We have such lines drawn around ourselves that we very rarely stop and just look at the person next to us. And I really see how every baby that we ever see, black, brown, yellow, white, it doesn't matter. But if we see a baby, we're all like, oh, the baby, this is a cute little baby. And we love their feet and we want to chew them and we want to look at them and we want to see them and we want to smell them. And I often ask myself, at which age do we start to hate that little baby? At which age does that line draw around us from each other and from another individual? And I really, in my work, I feel like my main thing that I can do is keep that line from being drawn. Just keep us seeing each other the way we always saw each other from the time we were little.
It's so interesting that you said that. Here we are clearly, again, there's nobody watching this who doesn't know what's going on in the news right now. Huge Supreme Court decision affirming equal rights for LGBTQ people in the workplace. Can't be fired if you're gay. That's a landmark ruling, and it will have implications moving forward for other equal rights. And then there's, of course, these nightly protests on race relations and police activity. And so it's a really, it's a volatile time emotionally, I think, for a lot of Americans. And our company had a big, huge Zoom meeting just to discuss it. And I said, this is a great time to give of yourself and give to charity, because that's something we can all do to equalize each other. If you give blood, right, you don't know what color it's coming from. You don't know what color it's going to. It's just red. But that's sort of, it does seem to be that charity is a great equalizer.
I think that giving is the great equalizer. I think that if you feel bad or sad or upset or concerned or loving, be giving. There is nothing that's going to expand your heart consciousness more than giving and being present. If you can be present with any other person and just sit, you don't have to talk. You don't have to do anything, but just sit and open your heart. This is a complicated time. Sometimes I ask questions that people think are awkward, but they're questions that, as a white woman during this time, I might not know the answer to. Is it appropriate for a white person to do this or that? And the questions are awkward. And sometimes people don't even want to answer them because they feel like I should know. And that's offensive to them. And then to me, I feel like, well, hey, how am I supposed to get to know what's going on if I can't say, I don't know? So I feel right now, the most important thing that we can do is ask and answer. Ask and answer. If you're humble enough to ask, let's be humble enough to answer. And let's all ask and answer.
Dialogue. I mean, it's right. It's all about dialogue. And I keep saying every chance I get, before you hit send, read it out loud. It will probably change entirely by the time you decide to hit send.
I do that. I read my emails. I read my emails out loud, generally speaking, to my assistant of 14 years, who's now more like my best friend and other part of my brain, because I feel like I get a much better sense of if my point is coming across with clarity. And if I'm reaching out in a way that makes sense, and because words can be very confusing, and not English is not everybody's first language either, which is something that we have a tendency to just zoom by.
Right. Hey, so all business, no play. I've got to ask you about your current project, because I'm a huge One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest fan. And of course, the key character being Nurse Ratched. There's a show called Ratched, and you're in it. Tell me about it.
Well, Sarah Paulson is playing Ratched, and it's going to be from the 40s. Each season is a decade, the 40s, the 50s, and it's going up to when she was in the cuckoo's nest. So we started in the 40s, and I play sort of her counter villain in this season. And it was, the actors in this, Judy Davis, Cynthia Nixon, Sarah, to work with these women, it's wow. Because, when you're a woman in the film business, you don't get to work with a lot of other women. And there's not an inspired consciousness that we should know and be friends with each other. There's a lot of that dissemination of, only one woman, and 200 men on the set. And so what's been so delightful about working again in this new environment, this sort of post and current Me Too environment, is that there are female crew members. There are other women actors, and especially when you work with Ryan Murphy, it's so exciting. And frankly, I've never had this kind of experience before. So it's just been marvelous. And I worked with Steven Soderbergh on Laundromat, which is still on Netflix, with Meryl Streep. And in all these years, I've never met Meryl Streep. So to have this opportunity to meet and to like and enjoy the company of another fellow actor like that is so rare, because we didn't get partnered in the olden days, in the pre-Me Too days.
In the pre-Me Too days, like 4 years ago.
Right.
Yeah, by the way, she's great. I love her. I met Meryl Streep at some event years ago, and she came up to me and she said, "Oh, you're so brave." Just like that. And it was like post-war correspondence, and I kept saying, actually, I was really scared out there, but I really love the way you said that.
You are so brave. And my 20-year-old son always had such a crush on you. He loved the news because his dad was a war reporter. And so you were his favorite, just his favorite. He was like, and when you were little and he couldn't even really say your name, Ashley Bamfield, he would say Bamfield. Bamfield. That's my girl I like.
Listen, all this girl power stuff, and here we are in the Tiffany event, which celebrates some, top female philanthropist, of which you are clearly one. And so I have something for you, but it's so weird. I normally would present this at the luncheon in person on the dais and all the rest, but see this like really pretty little Tiffany silver bracelet? You see this?
Oh,
this is mine.
I love it.
But guess what this is? This is yours. Yes. And
I'm very proud about
it's going to be arriving in this.
Thank you.
So it's the sort of weird, unceremonious presentation of a Tiffany bracelet, so that you're proudly now a member of the Tiffany Circle.
Well, when I got the gold medal in Rome, all these Red Cross workers came. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of Red Cross workers came in their Red Cross uniforms.
Awesome.
I've never seen such a moving sight as all of these people in their goodness, just standing there in their goodness and their courage. Talk about bravery, right?
Yes. Yeah. It's brave to get up at 3 a.m. too and go out and help someone you don't even know in a neighborhood you've never even been because their house just burned down. But listen, I have taken so much of your time, and I can't tell you how great it is to see you, how great it is to talk to you. And I can't thank you enough for your very inspirational message today to all of us. Thank you, Sharon Stone. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Ashley.